really excited to be here with you today, and especially to see the vibrant youth presence under the big tent, because I know how much each of your very diverse organizations brings to life in your work with young people profound new understandings about learning that researchers are continually uncovering. My work at What Kids Can Do, which is a small nonprofit organization that Barbara Cervone and I started 10 years ago, centers on bringing the voices of students themselves to bear on questions that have to do with their lives as learners. And for the past 2 years, I've been working on something we called the Practice Project. In it, students from all over the country, including quite a few here in Texas, joined me to explore a simple question that transformed the way we thought about learning and about teaching and about development of young people to be strong and capable citizens. That question was, and I need the slides here too. You're getting them? Good. That question was, what does it take to get really good at something? And when Bill was just talking right now about framing a common purpose, I think in everything I've heard so far this morning, that question outlines the common purpose we all have here today. Of course, that question immediately brings up two big issues that teachers and other adults who work with youth worry about a lot. First, young people's motivation to take on challenges in their lives as learners. And second, what and how kids need to practice in developing their mastery of the important knowledge, skills, habits of mind, and habits of work that will get them there. Just a note here, most of the students whose voices I bring to you today are between the ages of 13 and 18 or so. But if you work with students that are younger than that, you should know that much of what my group talks about here comes from their experience when they were younger children, and that has clearly affected the way they learn as teenagers. So perhaps we can stop every once in a while to just think together about the different ways we can hear what students start talking about when they're teenagers. So remember, the essential question of our practice project is, what does it take to get really good at something? And to start out our investigation, the kids and I had to think hard about how to define what really good means. Educators, of course, tend to refer to this as mastery, and researchers often call it expertise. But the kids and I just called it getting good. And in our practice project, it turned out pretty much everybody agreed. We know it when we see it. And we realized that whether we're talking about broken toilets, broken arms, broken contracts, or even broken hearts, all masters or experts bring to that problem, whatever it is, a huge fund of knowledge and skills that have become second nature to them. Here are just a few examples that came up for us as we were talking about who counts as a master, an expert, or just someone who's really good. Playing chess. Anybody here know somebody who plays chess really well? Raise your hand. You know it when you see somebody's really good. What about doing scientific research? Anybody here read the paper and read some new study on whether something's good for you or bad for you, or how you can get rid of that cold and things like that? Raise your hand. You tend to have a sense of whether something is really good scientific research just from the evidence they bring forward in the way they present it. And when you see somebody get a Nobel Prize for scientific research, you think, boy, that person's really good. His peers or her peers have adjudged that. What about speaking a foreign language? How many of you here speak a foreign language, a language that's not your first language, fluently? So when you're speaking that language and you know how to go to the post office and get that package mailed in that language, you feel it about yourself. Hey, I'm getting pretty good at that. And when you hear somebody whose first language is not your own language, and that person is speaking it really well, you get it, right? You know it when you see it. Finally, right in your own house or apartment, wherever you live, we see it every day when we eat something that's really well made. Somebody's a good cook, you know it. You know it when you see it. Now, all those people are really good at what they do that we've just looked at, but their expertise may have come from formal learning in institutions, schools, colleges, universities, but just as often they developed it at their grandmother's knee or with friends that were doing the same thing that they got involved with. But no matter who they are or where they developed that expertise, these are the people we want to go to when we have a really important problem or need, because we know that they're really good at what they do. So I'd like to stop, just like I did with the kids in the practice project at this point, and have us check our own assumptions about the underlying sources of high performance. How much does getting really good depend on talent that you're born with? Can anyone do it if they just practice? I'm going to give you 1 minute each to talk to your neighbor about that question, and then I'll pull you back together. I'm going to encourage you to continue that conversation as you leave here and throughout the morning, and really keep thinking about it all you can, because you know the answer. You get the answer from your own experience and from what you've observed in highly accomplished people that you know in your lives, whatever their status or whatever their age. You kind of have a sense of whether their talent comes only from what they're born with, or if it also comes from what happens later. And we'll keep coming back to this question because it's of vital interest, not only to teachers and to youth workers, but to everyone, parents, policymakers, brain scientists, and students. And it's interesting, almost every student I asked answered that central question, what does it take to get really good at something, by talking about practice. For example, here's what I heard from a Chicago high school student named Darius at the very beginning of our project.
Everything takes practice. It's like now one day you can just get up and say, I'm going to do something. You got to practice at it. You might be good at it when you first start off, but you still got to practice at it so you can get better, because no one's perfect. Like me, I can draw real good, but it's certain things that I want to learn how to do in drawing that I can't do right now. So I just keep practicing it and keep working at it.
Now, it's probably no surprise to you that the part that practice plays in getting really good at something isn't just common sense among people like us. It's also been the subject of a whole lot of research in the past couple of decades.